This is Orange Nation Overtime with Stephen Fonte and Paulie Sibilia.
Welcome into Orange Nation Overtime, everyone. Alongside Paulie Sibilia, I'm Stephen Fonte as we look back on last night's 87-77 loss down in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. The game really flipped with that run the Tar Heels went on in the last 3-4 minutes of the first half. It's a 5-point game. Syracuse had 3 straight possessions where they came away empty. Sadiq White had a bad shot. Carolina goes down, hits a 3. There was a shot clock violation. Carolina goes down and scores a bucket. And then Donnie Freeman comes in, it turns the ball over. Carolina gets a bucket at the other end, and the lead went from 5 to 17 in a very short period of time. Cuse cut it to 14 at the buzzer on the Donnie Freeman 3, but it was never really close the rest of the way. I know they got it to 6 late, but trailed by 32 in the second half, Paulie, and as we talked about on the radio show this afternoon, that just cannot happen.
Yeah, year 3, it can happen. It shouldn't happen in year 1, but you're getting your sea legs. By this far into building your culture, your program should have enough pride and fight to prevent a 32-point deficit against anybody.
We said going into the game, rebounding was going to be an issue. Rebounding was an issue. They lost by 10, and it probably should have been worse than that.
When I heard that, I was shocked. It felt like every offensive rebound went to North Carolina, and they only had one more than Syracuse. So it was, I don't know, maybe that weird run at the end of the game evened things out a little bit, but when they were down 32, I guarantee you those numbers looked a lot different.
Yeah, and Syracuse made it respectable, and you mentioned it, and we should say that's like they should get credit for that to some degree, that they didn't quit and that they played hard till the end, but nobody wants to hear that, and it's just not good enough. You can't be down 32 on the road in conference play in year 3. And yeah, it's good that they didn't quit, but it's all about wins and losses right now.
And you're Syracuse.
Yeah.
North Carolina should never be 32 points better than you.
Yeah. So they fall to 13-10, overall 4-6 in conference play. We had Mike McAllister on our show today. Normally he comes on Monday. He was tied up yesterday. He came on today, and we started him off by asking for his takeaways from that North Carolina game.
To me, it felt like the game was lost at the end of the first half. They really struggled offensively at the beginning of the game. North Carolina missed a few open shots, kind of kept the window open a little bit. And Syracuse clawed back and cut it to 5 with a couple minutes to go before halftime. And I had the thought go through my mind that if they can keep it around here, 5 to 7 points, then you feel like you go into halftime feeling like you got a shot and maybe have a little momentum, given that you had outplayed them in the last several minutes. And then in the blink of an eye, it ballooned up to 14, 16 points, whatever it ended up being. And it felt like that was sort of the nail in the coffin. And then the second half just sort of continued that trend, as it felt like Syracuse's the wind was knocked out of their sails at that point. But give them credit for continuing the fight, but I also think part of it is North Carolina lets up a little bit when they have a lead that was as large as it was.
What do you make of the offense last night, Mike? The shot selection was brutal. You mentioned the 5-point deficit. Sadiq White took a horrible shot that basically led to the downfall there at the end of the first half.
It just didn't seem like the same offense that we saw against Notre Dame, right? They were sharing the ball much better. There was much more movement in that game. And this game sort of reverted back to what we had seen in previous games where they have long stretches where they don't score, they don't shoot the ball very well. It just felt like they sort of reverted back to that. And I was hoping to see them come out and kind of continue the way they had played against Notre Dame, showing a lot of energy and a lot of movement on offense. Even if your shots aren't falling, at least if you're getting good shots, you can live with it. And you understand sometimes that can happen. But North Carolina came out and wasn't making a lot of shots either. The difference was Syracuse wasn't getting good shots. North Carolina was. North Carolina just wasn't making them, at least in the first few minutes of the game. Syracuse was not getting anything offensively. And I think it goes back to ball movement, to sharing the basketball, and not being stagnant and running ISO all the time.
I want to defend myself a little bit. I'm not crushing Sadiq White for the bad shot. Everybody took it. I said the whole offense, but it felt like
it was a big one.
When he made that shot, he attempted that shot, it kind of just rolled downhill from there. Like that started.
Yeah, they hit a 3 at the other end. It went to 9. Then there was the shot clock violation, went to 11. And then Donnie had a turnover, went to 14. And that did seem to like it started the downfall, Mike.
Yeah, no question. And that can happen, right? When you you fight back and you get yourself within striking distance, and then you have a couple of bad plays and they can snowball on you. And when, they've lost 5 times in the last 6 games, the mental part of it starts to creep in too, right? When things start to not go your way, instead of being confident that you can fight back and figure out a way to stay in it and give yourself a shot to win, there's the here we go again mentality that is normal to creep up when you're going through a rough stretch. So I think that played a part in this as well. And I'm just not sure they have that one guy that when things aren't going well is really going to, get in everyone's faces and say, this is not acceptable. We're going to turn this around right now. I don't know that they have that guy, that vocal, fiery type of a guy. You don't have to have one of those on every team, but it certainly helps when you're going through rough stretches.
It's been a hot topic of discussion this week, the Donnie Freeman lineup change against Notre Dame. We haven't had you on since that happened, and I mean we all know what happened, right? They sit him on the bench, they get back to that defensive intensity, they move the ball on offense, they played well against Notre Dame, and again I know it's just Notre Dame, and then Donnie goes back in the starting lineup, presumably for the scoring punch. He gives them the scoring punch, but they just did not play the same way defensively or offensively in that game against North Carolina. What do you make of, I guess, the week that was for Donnie Freeman and how they kind of handled the situation?
Certainly took me by surprise when Red said after the game prior to that everything was on the table and they could make some changes and alluded to that. The one I thought that they could make was potentially taking Nate George out of the lineup to either put in Cayenne or put in a Tyler Betsy and maybe move JJ to the 1 or something like that. I didn't see a Donnie Freeman for Sadiq White swap. But the thing that I keep going back to once that happened was the comment that Red made after the game when they asked him why Sadiq White was in there, even with, picking up 4 quick fouls. And he said he was the only one trying and then walked it back. And so I'm wondering how much of it was rewarding Sadiq White for his effort and that being part of it. Also, if you take your best player out of the lineup, maybe that gets everyone's attention as, oh my goodness, maybe he really is serious about changing things up and trying to get a spark. Not entirely sure. Still caught me off guard, but it makes you wonder do you stick with that lineup until you lose, and maybe you go into North Carolina with that lineup and see what happens, and maybe they wouldn't have gotten off to as rough of a start as they did. Hard to tell. Hindsight's 20/20, obviously, but Donnie's going to play a lot of minutes either way. So.
Yeah, the other thing I want to mention about the offense or ask you about is isn't it kind of like you're not exactly going up against a world beater defense when you're playing North Carolina either. Everybody thought they were going to have to score in the, upwards of 80 points to beat them because so it's not like BC's even got a better statistical defense than they do. It was kind of weird to watch. It felt like a game where the up-tempo style was going to work to your favor and you still somehow just got bogged down.
Yeah, and again, I think that goes back to ball movement, but then the other side of it is you can't go up-tempo as often when your defense isn't forcing turnovers and getting quick shots and then getting those rebounds, right? So Syracuse was dominated on the glass. They didn't play particularly great defense. They're not a good half-court offensive team, regardless of who the defense is. They're at their best offensively when they're able to use their defense to create transition opportunities and or rebound the basketball and turn those into fast break opportunities, get out in the open floor, take advantage of their speed and athleticism. That's really where Syracuse can get some easy buckets and put some points on the board. If you force Syracuse to play half-court offense consistently for 40 minutes, they're going to have stretches where they really struggle to score. And that's what happened at the beginning of that game against North Carolina. That's why North Carolina got out to a lead early and why Syracuse couldn't take advantage of some of the missed shots from the Tar Heels. That's just a reality of what this team is at this point.
Mike, it feels like the next 4 or 5 weeks don't quote unquote matter, right? In terms of NCAA tournament, that's a foregone conclusion. They're not getting in that large bid, and the next thing that truly matters is the ACC tournament. In that time, if we were to see Adrian Autry and the staff make a change or two, what would be at the top of your list to attempt to, even if it is an experimental thing or just a change they can make before the ACC tournament that might provide a little bit of a spark outside of sitting Donnie for a few minutes?
Yeah, I think maybe playing JJ at the one more and then bringing in either Kyan or Tyler Betsy into the starting lineup. I think that might give you a little bit more of an offensive spark. And, I know Kyan's had his issues on the defensive end. I recognize that. But it just seems like offensively they seem to be in more of a consistent flow when JJ is at the one. My very amateur basketball mind's opinion. But that's one change I could see potentially happening as something that maybe could spark something. But otherwise, they are what they are. I saw some good things from Bryce Zephyr when he had to go in against Virginia Tech. So I don't know if that means you try to find some more minutes for him. Not 100% sure if that would lead to anything, but it's tough when you feel like you know who your best guys are and you know what your best rotations are, and it's just not working. So now you have to either make a change for the sake of making a change, or maybe you go do some deep dives into analytics and say, you know what, this wasn't something we were seeing with our naked eye, but JJ's better in the half court running the point. So let's give him some more opportunities to do that, or different types of things. That's something I could see them potentially taking a look at, or if I was running things, maybe something I would try a little bit.
You mentioned it earlier, and I said it. It's like, why not just go back to the Sadiq starts? You hung with Houston with that. You beat Tennessee with that. You played what looked like your most complete game against Notre Dame with it. Why not?
Yeah, it's a good point, and especially because of the energy. Whenever he's out there, he's giving you everything he has from an energy and an effort standpoint. I don't recall a game this year where I've thought, Sadiq wasn't going all out on every single play. And so maybe that energy to start a game can just be infectious and can help them start a little bit better than what they have, because it seems like during this losing streak that's been an issue. The start of the first half, start of the second half is it just takes them a little bit to kind of get into things. Maybe if you throw Sadiq out there to start the game, because of the energy he's giving, that can sort of be contagious a little bit and let other guys start to pick up on that and pick up their energy a little bit. And then you keep that up for, longer stretches than what has been there in the last handful of games. That's certainly something I would take a look at. And, maybe given the fact that when you started him recently against an ACC level opponent, it worked. When you didn't, it didn't. Maybe you just use that and see what happens either at Virginia or for the 2 home games following that.
Let me ask you another question. Do you think this is, people seem to think this is a shot at Donnie Freeman, that Sadiq would start him? I still tend to think he's going to get his 35 minutes even if he doesn't start. But I also think this is a positive sign for Donnie Freeman, that he's the one guy, I think, on the team that would say, yeah, I will do this if we're going to win. I have a feeling it would ruin other players, and I think he's just the guy that can handle it.
Well, I think the proof is that he did handle it, right? He played well in the second half against Notre Dame. And then in the first half against North Carolina, right after he gets taken out of the starting lineup and then gets put back in, and he had a really strong first half against the Tar Heels and kind of kept Syracuse afloat for a while. So, from a mental standpoint, you're right. There's a lot of players that couldn't handle that. He certainly seems to have been able to. And so if you sit him down and just have that frank conversation with him and say, look, you're still going to get 30-plus minutes a game. That's not changing. But we got to do something to try to change up how this thing is going. And when we had Sadiq out there, when you were hurt, he gave us a lot of energy right from the start. It worked against Notre Dame. We're going to try it again for a few games and see what the results are. And if nothing ends up changing, then maybe we'll go back to putting you in the starting lineup. But just have that conversation with him, and you hope that the relationship between him and the coaching staff is strong enough that they can have those conversations and, all be on the same page moving forward with it.
All right, Mike, anything else before we let you go? Either women's basketball, men's lacrosse, they both played on Sunday. Anything else you want to touch on before we part ways today?
I'll just say this about women's basketball. For every Syracuse basketball fan that's frustrated with the way that this season has gone for the men's team, it's gone the opposite for the women's team. They're really good. They're fun to watch. They play with a ton of energy. They're really good defensively, a very physical team. They kind of embody Felicia Leggett-Jack's personality in the way that they play. I would encourage fans to go watch them, to go to games and to check them out, because they're a lot of fun to watch, and they're very talented and they're really good. And if they want to keep some of these young players, they're going to need all the support that they can, because you got the player that's probably going to be the ACC Rookie of the Year in Uche, and it's going to be tough to keep her. There's no doubt she's probably going to get some lucrative offers to go to some big programs. So anything that fans can do to support the program, to help give them the resources necessary to try to keep that core intact, I think would be beneficial to that program, not only this year, but in the foreseeable future.
And the schedule doesn't get any easier for Syracuse. Right back on the road against another top 20 opponent on Saturday. They traveled to Virginia, and as we said, this February schedule can be a blessing or a curse. The blessing is that you can come up with a lot of quad one wins and improve your resume. That doesn't even matter right now, right? And then the flip side of that is you might lose a bunch of games, and it could get very ugly.
Yeah, and North Carolina is by no means a defensive juggernaut, and Syracuse's offense really struggled until the end. Yeah, last 10 minutes of that game. Virginia, on the other hand, is very good defensively, and
it's not a good matchup, right?
You're on the road, and it's just Syracuse hasn't played well at North Carolina, and they very rarely win at UVA.
Yeah, they 0-8 all time at the Dean Smith Center. After last night's loss, and back-to-back road games where they've gotten blown out. The NC State game got away at the end. Carolina, obviously, even though it was a 10-point spread, that was a blowout. And now they go back on the road to play another really good team on Saturday. As part of the show today, we did open it up, of course, to our listeners and our viewers, and open up the phone lines. And we got a lot of calls today, some talking about the performance, some talking about who they believe the next head coach will be. Here's a sample of some of what our callers had to say today.
Just curious, I just can't stop thinking about this upcoming coaching search that we're inevitably going to have. And I'm just curious, what names you guys that might be monitoring. Of course, Jerry McNamara, of course, Josh Schertz, and others. But, inevitably there's going to be other big-time programs that are looking for a new coach. I'm just reading an article now that, says, monitor Tennessee, that Rick Barnes might be stepping down. And just other big programs that Syracuse might not be the number one spot for some of these names people are considering. One interesting name I was actually just reading about, Mark Few from Gonzaga. I know he's 63. I know he seems like he'll never leave Gonzaga, but he's very close friends with Jim Boeheim. I wonder if Boeheim would ever give him a call and said, would you come over here and turn around our program? Just curious your thoughts. What other names you're also monitoring?
Yeah,
that's an interesting one I hadn't heard before.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd be surprised.
He's he would be less shocking than some of the names we've heard.
Yeah.
People throw out there Patino, or
I saw some people talking about Chris Beard today. I don't think Chris Beard is leaving the SEC. You brought up Hop the other day, which was interesting to me because he's got obviously the ties to the program, and some are turned off by that. But he hasn't been here in a decade, right?
Yeah.
And he's got the head coaching experience. He's obviously got the ties to the program that some like and some don't. And he's in the NBA right now. I do wonder how that would play with the fan base. I kind of wonder aloud. I know there's.
Here's the thing: you can't listen to the fan base on who you're hiring. You got to hire the right guy. The fans are dopes when they don't know.
Yeah, I don't know that. I see San Diego Cuse brings up Schertz and says, he's probably going to get more money elsewhere. I don't know that he's going to be realistic for them at the end of the day. It sounds like he's already heard from some big time programs and programs with more money, LSU, Oklahoma, some programs in the Big East for that matter as well. I don't know that it seems like there's going to be a bidding war for him to some degree.
Yes, fans pay for tickets, they pay for the salary of the coaches. Yes, I get that. You just can't let fans make decisions like that. You can't have a poll and be like, who should we hire? But it does. The fan involvement and input does matter more now than ever before. The win, you got to have someone that the NIL is going to come for,
right? And that's why I said I wonder how, if Hop is in the mix, I wonder how that plays with the fan base.
I think that would be embraced by some fans.
Jim in Pennsylvania. What's up, Jim?
So, hey, from trying to be healthy here in terms of just thinking positively, obviously, as I think, one of you said earlier, the writing seems like it's on the wall. On the coaching future, there's part of me, again, in my random one guy's thoughts, I hope that whatever they do, we let the next person, have their time because, here in Central PA, one of the things back when, forgetting about the scandal part of it, which was horrific, but when they made the coaching change after Paterno at Penn State, Bill O'Brien got out because he nicknamed all the fans that were all the old-timers the Joe Bots, because all they wanted to do was live in the past and talk about what the glory days were like, and it was impossible to do anything new when that's all you were ever faced with, right? If we want this to get better, somebody's got to come in, and I know someone can say, well, that's what we did with Red. We gave him 3 years, and it didn't work out. People aren't going to want the job. I know there's money, but they're going to want to be able to run their own program, and I just hope we let the next person do that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair point. And, you hear that phrase all the time. It's hard to be the guy who follows the guy, and there is something to be said for that. And, it may be difficult if Hop takes over because, again, there's going to be all the comparisons and the, obviously immense pressure. There's going to be pressure on whoever comes here, whether it's a Cuse guy or not. If he does have ties to the Cuse program, like if it is Jerry or Hop, for instance, Hop in particular for this conversation, there's going to be even more pressure on him than there would be someone else from a different program from outside the family. So I get that, and I understand that, and I think whoever takes the job is going to certainly understand that.
Yeah, but you also can't go out and hire someone and it turns into Kenny Payne.
Correct. Right. That's a good point.
Because it can get worse.
But what if you find Kurt Signetti, right?
Yeah, you don't know.
Yeah.
So it's a difficult situation. They just got to get the right guy, and I don't care where he comes from.
Everybody wants to know when they will move on from Adrian Autry, if and when it'll happen. It no longer seems like an if; it seems like a when. I think you and I are in agreement that they're not going to do it mid-season. Maybe at the very end they would say he's not going to be back next year
to save yourself that they won the tournament situation.
But I do not envision any scenario where they right now pull the plug and say clean out your office. I don't think that's happening.
And it's impossible, but it's not. It's too early to pull the plug, anyways.
Yeah,
I mean, you can get yourself into playing meaningful games in March still. It's impossible.
Yeah, I think
it's not.
I think I think an at-large bid is off the table. I really do. Like I don't.
Well, it would take a miracle. You'd have to be Duke. You'd have to be Louisville. You'd have to be Virginia.
Would you get an at-large bid if you won the rest of your games?
Yes.
You think so?
Because you'd have road wins against Duke, Louisville, UVA.
You're so far off the bubble.
And Wake Forest.
Okay. You're probably right, I guess, but it's not realistic.
If they ran the table from now, they would probably be an 8-9 game.
They're so far away from the bubble, I guess it's hard to imagine right now, and it's not realistic, so why are we even talking about it? But, I mean, I don't think they're going to play meaningful games in the month of February. Now, do they go on a run at the ACC tournament? I suppose that's possible. We've seen stranger things, but I don't think you're going to be playing meaningful games this next month. Until then,
if they ran out the rest of the season, let's just do this math: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They would have 6 quad 1 wins. That's a tournament team. I mean, it'd take a miracle.
Yeah,
and it would be away.
All of them are away. I think
away,
right? Except for Carolina.
One home game.
Carolina's the home game. Yeah.
So you can't do it yet. Just because.
Yeah. All right, and you told us on the radio show this afternoon that you can't wait for your dinner tonight.
Yeah, I'm having a pot pie. Did you know that the pot pie, Steve, was created in the 16th century? It was a serving of meat in a pastry form. Usually deer meat was the first one. Venison, I can guarantee you don't eat venison, right?
No.
Yeah. Also, you could have it in pork, lamb, any kind of bird. So, yeah. Apparently, Queen Elizabeth made the chicken pot pie famous.
And that's where you're going chicken tonight?
Yes.
Chicken pot pie. Okay. I want a full review tomorrow.
You will have it.
We are out of time. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening, everyone. For Paulie, I'm Steve. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.
Download the WSYR Plus app on your TV to stream News Channel 9 for free. Just go to your smart TV, search WSYR Plus in the App Store, and download to start streaming today.